Om. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu. Sahano Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvina Vaditamastu. Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti. 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 Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. Well, good evening, everyone, and namaste. Thanks for coming this evening to our reading and discussion of the book Realizing God, a collection of Swami Prabhavananda's talks. It's a remarkable book because of the quality of the each talk is the result of Edith Tipple Nalini's editing together of the best parts of the same talk given over many decades. So with that, is there anything anyone would like to bring up for discussion before we begin the reading? Anything at all that is a matter of concern or something you'd like to comment on from your own wisdom or experience? All right, dears, please tell us where we are in the book, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Good evening and namaste, everybody. We're on page 94, second paragraph of Realizing God. The topic is we are on the impersonal life. That's where we are, still continuing from last week. I will start from the second paragraph of page 94. The Upanishads teach uncompromisingly the supreme truth of unity, of identity, between the self and Brahman. They point out that one who realizes this truth overcomes death, goes beyond sorrow, and reaches the ultimate goal. Of course, it is to be realized, to be experienced. We do not know what the self is, nor do we know what Brahman is. We do not know what thou means, nor do we know what that means. So it's pointed out that you have to hear about this truth, then to reason upon it, and then to meditate upon it. Through meditation, the door opens up. The individual self is what you may call the experiencer of happiness and misery, the one who tastes the sweet and bitter fruits of the tree of life. One who thinks, I am the doer, is bound by the law of karma, or cause and effect. What you sow, that you reap. But when you come to the absolute reality, this individual self, round which our whole world is centered, becomes a shadow, a reflection without reality. Upon that shadow, we build everything. Neti neti atma, not this, not that. Whatever you can think, can conceive, can sense, can perceive, that is not the Atman. That's not God. The Atman is something beyond, and the revelation of something beyond comes in a transcendental state of consciousness. First, you see, it is a denial of everything that we sense and perceive. There is one reality, Brahman. Everything else is unreal. All is Brahman. When you realize, I am he, I am that, or thou art that, you see that everywhere. It is a new vision. Most of us have vision for only a few feet. If I am in misery, I try to find the cause of that misery and to overcome it. But then again, I'm in misery. There's one problem and one worry after another. And there are also pleasures. Whether what we are seeking is spiritual life or not, we are all seeking to avoid suffering and misery completely. So we have to go to the root of the ignorance and get rid of it. What can get rid of ignorance? Knowledge, wisdom. Ignorance is direct and immediate, and it can be removed by something that is immediate. Light, knowledge, wisdom. Not the intellect. You may know intellectually that you are not the body. You can analyze and believe that, but if I give you a little pinch, you feel it. So you need a direct experience. You have to come to that knowledge where you are not identified, where at any moment you can detach yourself. Then you are free from all limitations, and your heaviest sorrow is turned into joy. As I was trying to think what the impersonal life means, I was reminded of a young boy, Sharat, who approached his master, Sri Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna asked him, what is it that you want to attain in life? His answer was, I want to see Brahman, to see God everywhere and in all, because I have heard this truth, all verily is Brahman. I want to realize that. Sri Ramakrishna said, that is the last word of religion, but my boy, you will attain that. This Sharat became known as Swami Sharadananda. He was one of the first apostles of Sri Ramakrishna. I'll tell you my experience with him. In a way, he was instrumental in sending me to this country to represent the order. As we were walking together, I was behind him. He suddenly turned toward me and said, well, you're going to cross 7 rivers and 7 oceans. I said, yes, holy sir, but I don't know what can I do, what I can do. His reply was something that should go down in history. He turned toward me and said in English, that's none of your business. We should see to that. Now, as I stand here and tell this story, it seems to me that if I can live that life and preach that attitude, that would be the impersonal life. To come to the point, Brahman is all. That is the last word of religion. When we attain that experience, it's not an emotional experience, not an intellectual understanding, but one that transcends emotion and intellect. We come face to face with reality. When that truth is experienced and you see Brahman in the face of everybody and within yourself, have you any separate identity? Have you any separate individuality? Aren't you living in all? That is the impersonal life. From an intellectual standpoint, how can Brahman be all? Consider the physical universe. There seems to be a gap between your body and my body. But is there? Isn't there one mass of existence? Aren't the cells of your body, my body, and all bodies revolving and touching one another? Then consider the mind. I can communicate with you and you with me. How is that possible? If you and I are completely separate, no communication is possible. In the mental world, also there is one cosmic mind. Your mind and my mind and everybody's mind are so many waves in that cosmic mind. If we just analyze a little, we can see the truth of this. Then when we consider the spirit or God, there is but one. You and I and every being in the universe are just one spirit. I am that one with Brahman. To translate the phraseology of our Sanskrit, from Brahma, the creator, down to the blade of grass and the pillar, there is just one spirit, one God pervading. I made the distinction between the physical universe, the mind, and the spirit. That is how it appears from our intellectual standpoint, from this level of consciousness. But when you come to a higher level of consciousness and experience knowledge from the standpoint of total reality, then there is neither body nor mind. There is just one unity, God, spirit, nothing else. What has modern science to say about it? The science of today, I would say, can be said to be metaphysics. What was the definition of matter and spirit in olden days? That consciousness is the property of the spirit, which distinguishes it from matter. But modern science points out that there is no matter. Matter is dematerialized. Consciousness is present everywhere. The mineral kingdom seems like a dull, dead matter. But the vision of an illumined soul is this. I went walking one day with a holy man, and he pointed to a rock and said, "Look at that rock. That is God sleeping." A great Hindu scientist, Dr. J.C. Bose, a contemporary of Vivekananda, came to Europe and America to prove that Brahman is everywhere. He had delicate instruments which record reaction. That is how we know one has feeling and consciousness, by reaction. Dr. Bose proved that metal also reacts to feelings and thoughts. Not only is there feeling in plants and vegetables and flowers, but also in metals. The West has since proved that the vegetable kingdom responds to our feelings and thoughts. It is an established fact that plants respond to affection, kindness, and love. There is a great objection to mysticism that you are no longer an individual being if you are absorbed in God. Really, when we lose ourselves in God and see nothing but God, then is it that we have supreme happiness? The illustration given in the Upanishads is of a husband and wife in each other's embrace. There comes a moment when they feel an intense bliss. They have forgotten themselves. But this bliss we see in the world is a shadow. If you can lose yourself in the source of all bliss, it becomes abiding, permanent. To quote Sri Ramakrishna, then one experiences the bliss of sexual union through every pore of the body, that bliss of union with God. That is the end of the topic, the impersonal life, Brother Shankara. Any purport you would like to share with us?
Well, what can I add to what the Swami has said? He just covered it with great thoroughness. And the idea that we can remain in this sense of separateness is, from his perspective, simply not possible. anyone who's come this far to be reading or hearing what he's saying. There's no way that you can remain in that sense of separateness. So he described with great accuracy and articulated so well why separateness is simply not possible. So is there anything that anyone would like to add from their own wisdom or experience, or any concern or question that any of this raises for you? Well, clearly the Swami did a remarkable job of making his point about the impersonal life and the fact that the impersonal life does not deprive us of anything. It is the source of the greatest happiness. I'll tell a story about Swami Prabhavananda. He was once asked by a student in a class, well, Swami, if I had attained this state of Turiya, that was what was being discussed, this state, the fourth state, won't I lose everything? Won't I lose my personality? Won't I lose everything? And this question was addressed so to someone who was known as a realized soul and one of the most charming and articulate and personable people you could ever imagine encountering. And he just laughed, the Swami laughed, and said, "No, my child, you lose nothing, you gain everything." And he meant that quite literally. You gain everything simply because you become that. That's what it means to attain that state of Turiya. You become that fourth state, that state of Saguna Atman, Brahman with attributes. It's still an experience. It's still within time, space, and causation, but it is a reality. Capital R. So, I guess there was just that much to add to what the Swami said. Anything else from anyone?
I'll make a little comment. I was earlier today watching a YouTube video of a guy who had had a near-death experience. He had been dead for 45 minutes in a body bag. And he was talking about his experience before he came back into his body. He was basically watching himself, but he wasn't aware that he was watching himself. He said it's like he knew it was someone that looked like him, the body. He was watching them do these things to his body, but he thought he was in a movie theater watching a movie. And he was wondering why, the movie director or producer was having, as part of this production, the thoughts of all of the people involved. You'd hear everybody's thoughts, and the guy thought, well, this isn't a very good movie. This isn't a very well written.
Right.
And at one point, he did come back into his body, but before that, he was being shown, this person appeared, and he thought it was God, and the guy or the being laughed and said, "No, I'm not God. I'm just your guide." But one of the things that they discussed before he came back into his body was about, different things that you need to do or would need to do. You don't have to do them if you want to go all the way back home to the source. And one of them was to give up all prejudice. And this guy very sincerely believed that he had no prejudice. You know, he said, you know, I've got this, and this, and this in my background, and all these different types of people. But his guide showed him that he was prejudiced against prejudiced people, basically.
Ah,
And showed him that, you know, people who are really racist or really misogynistic or whatever they are, that if you were able to look deeply enough, you would see that they had a lot of pain in their background.
mm,
Otherwise, they wouldn't be that way. People just aren't that way just for fun or by accident. And also showed him that those people are salvageable from their own misery,
mm,
only by unconditional love.
mm.
And so this was one of the greatest lessons he brought back from this experience. And I'm telling this because of what Jaime was just reading, that Swami Prabhavananda said. You know, there were a lot of things in there, but, you know, about how everything is Brahman. Everything is from that same home base energy, that one thing, and it differentiates as all these other things, you know, plants, animals, people, nice people, mean people. And the way to become one is to not separate yourself from anything or anyone else.
Mhm.
And I just, they seem related in my mind.
Well, of course, and you articulated it very well. They are indeed related. What he was shown by his guide and what Swami Prabhavananda just got through saying are pointing in exactly the same direction. And it's interesting that the guy thought he wasn't prejudiced, but he was prejudiced against prejudiced people. That's a cosmic pun right there. So anything else from anyone? Thank you, Cindy.
That on page 93, which we read last week, it said, there is one ether, but there are walls. So there is ether within the walls and ether outside the walls. Take away the walls, and there is one ether. Take away ignorance, there is one Atman, one God, and one Brahman. I think that's kind of, you know,
It's very concise.
resonates to what you're talking.
Yeah. And so the ether is a metaphor for Brahman or Atman or Maya. It depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. But thank you for finding that and for reading it. It's perfect. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara, I have a general question. So I have a personality. So my understanding is that personality is developed, the soul developed that personality so that it can heal or purify in this birth. Is that the right thing? Because in next birth, I may have different personality, more purified, if hopefully.
Well, first of all, let's not think about next births. Sri Ramakrishna came to unchain us and set us free, as Vivekananda said. So just hold out your hand to Sri Ramakrishna. Did your soul create your personality? That's not the understanding from Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma's understanding is that your personality, your character, is a creation of your karmas from previous births, interacting with the gunas. And so these are, you have a character at this very moment. But as Swami Vivekananda so sternly points out, what was created in the previous moments can be changed in the next moments. So it is now that we have the interaction of the soul and the wish to dispel ignorance. So the soul now can apply these practical principles that we've been learning through meditation. Notice, first we hear about it, then we think about it, then we meditate on it. The meditation is what unlocks the door to our deeper understanding. So no, it's not your soul that developed the personality. The soul is eternal, changeless, and infinite. It doesn't do anything like that. It represents itself as the Atman, which also shares those characteristics of infinitude, changelessness, but it also possesses these divine attributes of love and compassion, which allows it to be transformative. Notice that the Swami mentioned that if there's going to be a change in another person, it will only be through unconditional love. Well, we will only have that ability to deliver unconditional love to someone else, and when we have discovered it for ourselves, within ourselves. So does that answer your question?
Thank you so much. Yes.
And it was a very good question. Anything else from anyone?
I did have an observation from a recent experience of my own about surrender and the impersonal being not a loss of anything that I've ever known, anything I've ever desired, anything I've ever saw as a part of my life path would not be lost. With realization, it would be resolved. So resolved was the operative word that really helped me through that moment following a meditation when I was trying to ponder what it meant. Resolved, I mean, there's
Resolved is a beautiful word.
Yeah, just there's nothing outside of the ultimate reality, so there's nothing that I could possibly lose. Anyway.
Yes, exactly. And I'm so glad to hear that you're having these experiences. They come closer and closer together over time, till finally that is the spiritual and you can say metaphysical space in which you abide. I mean, you're still alive, you're Jivan Mukta, free while alive, but you have this experience and that experience, and things as you say, and nothing is lost. Thank you for sharing that.
Great, thank you.
Anything else from anyone? This is exactly what we should be doing. Sharing as a congregation our actual experience of these things. Okay, I'm pleased. Let's move on.
Brother Shankara. We are on our next topic is the problem of evil, page 98 in the book. The problem of evil is central to every religion and philosophy and to every individual. To quote the philosopher Kapila, the supreme purpose of life is the complete cessation of suffering and misery. Mark the words, complete cessation. Yes, suffering comes, misery comes, and we overcome them. But they arise again. So the supreme purpose is not just a temporary overcoming, but a complete cessation of suffering and misery. It can be pointed out that the great teachers, a Kapila or a Christ, include so-called happiness in the category of suffering. Let me give you an example. The other day, I received a letter from a young Hindu girl who is happily married. Both husband and wife are graduates of American universities, and they both have good jobs. They have no lack or want in the worldly sense, and they have a little baby. But she writes, Swami, I have everything that makes her happy, that makes for happiness in the world, but I'm not happy. How can I find peace? How can I find happiness? There is the illustration of the great Buddha. He had everything that the world could offer, but he found suffering and misery in the three woes of mankind: old age, disease, and death. I may point out that every religion, every great teacher shows the way to overcome suffering and misery. You may say the Oriental religions are pessimistic, seeing everything as suffering, but the word in our language means ever-changing, constant flux. This is also the attitude of Christ. I shall have tribulations in the world, but I have overcome the world. From a practical standpoint, how can we remove this suffering and overcome all tribulations? What is the way to peace? Every religion has given us the means by which we can realize that infinite bliss is bliss in this very life. That is, if by religion we mean realization, experiencing the reality, the truth of God. But theoretical doctrines and dogmas or philosophical speculations are confusing. Why does God permit such suffering? I have no answer. This reminds me of an interesting incident. Two disciples of Ramakrishna, Swami Turiyananda, who was a great scholar, and Swami Adbhutananda, who was completely unlettered, were having a discussion. Swami Turiyananda was explaining the law of karma. Swami Adbhutananda listened with great interest, then asked his brother disciple, Brother Hari, did the Lord appoint you as his lawyer that you have to justify the Lord's conduct? And both of them had a hearty laugh. You know, if you come to a holy man with your suffering, with a restless mind, not knowing where to find peace, does he give you a discourse? No. You sit in his presence and you find peace. I've seen that. So when it comes to the problem of evil, I would only say, who can tell the mysterious ways of God? Of course, I can point out philosophically and intellectually that what you call suffering and misery is really nothing, that there's no such thing. But that doesn't help when you're suffering. We cannot deny any experience. No matter how much anybody can say, it's not true. When I am in a dream and experiencing happiness or suffering, no amount of argument at that moment will help. When I wake up, my heart may still palpitate for a while, even though I know the dream was not real. You see, there are degrees of reality. Then again, there is an experience which is not contradicted by any other experience, but which contradicts all other experiences. In our wakeful consciousness, we experience so many things. We wake up to the experience of the reality that is timeless, beyond space and relativity. That experience contradicts our waking experience. In it, there is neither good nor evil, neither happiness nor suffering. To quote from the Chandogya Upanishad, this infinite self is the self. The self is below, above, behind, before, to the right, to the left. I am all this. This infinite is the Atman, the self. One who knows, meditates upon, and realizes the truth of the self, such a one delights in the self, revels in the self, rejoices in the self. One more time. This infinity is the Atman, the self. One who knows, meditates upon, and realizes the truth of the self, such a one delights in the self, revels in the self, rejoices in the self. He becomes a master of himself and master of all the worlds. Slaves are they who know not this truth. So we are caught in the wheel of karmas, both good and evil, and there is no escape as long as we are within ignorance. The world will continue as it is, good and evil. You know, if there were no evil, there would also be no good. There is an interesting parable of Sri Ramakrishna. Sita and Rama were seated together, and Sita said, Rama, I went out into the city to see the condition of the people, and I saw that there are houses that are dilapidated and poverty. All this must be removed. So Rama had the city built. After some time, the masons and carpenters and plumbers came and complained, we have no jobs. So Rama told Sita, you see how it is? The world will go on as it is. To expect a millennium is to expect the impossible. Individuals have to come out of the world, and there is a way out. As Buddha taught, there is suffering. There is a cause of suffering. There is a way out of suffering, and there is a way of peace. My master once told me, meditate, meditate, meditate. Find the mine of bliss. Then we will realize how people suffer for no reason, when in everyone there is that mine of bliss. That is the end of this little topic, the problem of evil, Brother Shankara.
And I think read that last again,
Okay, sure.
what Swami Prabhavananda said.
Okay. The world will go on as it is. To expect a millennium is to expect the impossible. Individuals have to come out of the world, and there is a way out. As Buddha taught, there is suffering. There is a cause of suffering. There is a way out of suffering, and there is a way of peace. My master once told me, meditate, meditate, meditate. Find the mine of bliss. Then you will realize how people suffer for no reason, when in everyone there is that mine of bliss.
So it's there in each one of us. It's there for us to find. The way to do it is through meditation. And if we don't know how to meditate, we can take instruction very usefully from one of the Ramakrishna Order Swamis. That they will always be happy to tell you how to meditate. And if you ask for initiation, they will give you initiation. As far as this center here in Atlanta goes, the one who initiates is Swami Sarvadevananda. So if you'd like that relationship with Sarvadevananda, email me. I'll forward your email with my recommendation. He likes that when someone asks for initiation, he likes the fact that I tell him, yes, this person has been studying. Yes, they are a fit person for this great grace that you have to offer. So any comments or questions or concerns about anything that was read or said?
I was just going to say, brother, for me personally, if I really want to know stuff, I do the japa. And, Swami Brahmananda, it's a very small book, and I got it somewhere, but I couldn't find it. But it's like meditation and japa in a nutshell. It's a little tiny book, but, he tells you the basics in that book. And, you can read it in one sitting. But really, I can't say enough. If you want to have realizations, do the japa.
Well, japa leads to meditation. Japa leads, the process of doing japa trains the mind to concentrate. When we learn to concentrate, we then make the segue, we make the crossover into meditation, into practicing meditation. And so this is why you discovered what you discovered, which is beautiful and well said. And of course, it's why all of the teachers will tell us, meditate, meditate, meditate.
From a bhakti perspective, you can do the japa to where you're singing it as a praise. And you can just go so deep into it that you can get that singleness to where, it happens for you.
Yes. Om Hari Om, Om Hari Om, Om Hari Om. As you say, you can actually sing it. There are many of the phrases, the japa phrases that can be sung. Beautiful. Thank you as always, Bhagavan Das. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, I'm.
I just want to make a comment about the question, why does God permit such suffering? So far, the readings and all the knowledge we gained, which I gained a little bit of it, I understood that suffering and obstacles are to purify our hearts so we can move to the upper realm. At the time of suffering, it may not feel that way, but it may take a long time or some time to realize that this is to purification of my heart, and which I truly believe with experience. Just that's
It is a truth as voiced by Holy Mother. She said, I know you don't see it now, but in time you will come to realize that all suffering is a blessing for exactly the reason you just said. Now, is that an easy teaching? No, it is not an easy teaching. But good, we cannot know good without evil. Ultimately, we transcend and transform both good and evil into the Maya from which they're made. And beyond the Maya, then we penetrate to the Atman or Brahman. When that happens, we go, the word Turiya was mentioned early on. This is when we reach that fourth state, above waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. there is this fourth state where we go beyond all dream. And when we look backward from that state, we agree with Swami Vivekananda, who said, "No one can convince me that this waking life is not a dream, is not also a dream." And he then goes on to give some examples of why that's true. But we are dreaming. We are dreaming this reality into existence for purposes of the divine. We have no purposes. God alone is the doer. God alone is the creator of purposes and the activities that achieve those purposes. Anything else from anyone?
I just wanted to say about what Jaime was talking about, we come here to purify our hearts. And the guy I was talking about earlier, who was describing some things he learned during his 45 minutes of being dead, a lot of the things that he said, if you've ever listened to people's stories about having near-death experiences, they often tell these very similar things, which also match up with what so many of the great teachers and sages say as well about karma, as far as karma and our purpose here and all that. I agree with you completely, Jaime. And I think this guy in this thing, one of the things he said that I thought was great was he said, we come into this life, this is a classroom. He said it's a classroom, not a courtroom. And I really liked that, because we're not here to be punished. The suffering is not about punishment for past deeds or past lives or anything. It's to learn. And what are we learning? We're learning about love. And in doing that, we purify our hearts.
Amen and well said. Thank you, Cindy.
But notice how along the way we were trying to escape suffering, and then it transforms into love of God and then love of self. And we're no longer trying to escape suffering. The only suffering we have is the divine discontentment.
Well said. And that is an ache. That divine discontent is, as Swami Prabhavananda points out in the Spiritual Heritage of India, it becomes an unbearable ache. And when it does, we're very close to realization.
I sometimes think that some of the bad experiences that you go through, they're labeled bad. You get out of them and you're so grateful to have gotten out of them. So there's quite a lot of gratitude, I think, that brings you to your love of God, right? It's like, oh, I survived that. I'm still here. I woke up the next day, and it's
And the operative term there is I woke up. Whether it's a physical waking up or that is an analog for our spiritual waking up. And it is that waking up that allows us to feel the gratitude. Yes, I agree with you entirely. We're grateful that we passed through those experiences and taken from them what we can. And I agree with Cindy entirely. This is not a courtroom. It is a classroom. Swami Vivekananda said, it is a gymnasium. is that kind of classroom where we learn to stretch and perform with our spiritual muscles. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, dear.
I mean, it's just look at as a as a motivating factor. I mean, sometimes our lives have to get pretty bad to have the motivation and the energy to have that psychic rearrangement.
Yes, that is one of the foundational principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, is that you must hit bottom and admit that you're helpless in the face of this great monster called alcohol or drugs, that you cannot control it, and that the only way to control it is to ask for the intervention of the divine. And so then we're turned the right direction now, but we only get there through being bottomed out. Exactly. Part of what it does. So, anything else from anyone?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, it seems to me comfort provides you building materials for a very, sturdy ego. So that you want to not be provided with those at all times, so that you can learn to stop building that cage for yourself.
Well, yes, indeed. If we make ourselves too comfortable, why change? What is the motivation to change if we're very, very comfortable? And we can look around us and see very many people who are in that situation. They've done well in life, they've earned a good amount of money, and they have a nice house, nice cars, nice family. They're relatively comfortable. So there's very little motivation for them to pursue spiritual practices. Well and good. As Sri Ramakrishna says, no judgment. Their time will come at exactly the right time. They will begin to awaken. They'll see that they're, one way or another, they'll see the futility of what they're pursuing.
Like the line, chains of gold, no less strong to bind.
Ah, yes. Yes, that you've been quoting from Swamiji's Song of the Sannyasin, and that is quite a remarkable poem. Chains of gold, not less strong to bind. So we accept the invitation of the great teachers to unshackle us, to unchain us and set us free, which is precisely why Sri Ramakrishna came. No other reason but to unchain us and set us free. And if you want to know what I mean, just review once again, go through Swami Vivekananda's hymn to Sri Ramakrishna called Breaker of This World's Chain. And we'll see that Sri Ramakrishna came for no other reason than to set us free.
Too, he says, he who wears the form wears the chain.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, we just, as long as we wear the form.
Exactly. But we can escape wearing the form by this trick of meditation. And then we see that the form is not something that we wear, it's something that we use to accomplish whatever it is that the doer puts us up to.
Yeah, you see, there never was a form.
Yes. Ultimately, that's what you see. Very long road. I'm talking, in terms of years, not lifetimes. But you do come to that conclusion. Anything else? How are we doing for time?
We have about 4 more minutes.
Oh my. Okay, well, we're doing all right then.
Yeah, I can.
Anything else from anyone?
Well, I had one confusion about that Brahman creates Maya. Is that correct? Brahman creates Maya.
Well, it isn't exactly correct to say Brahman creates, because Brahman doesn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
Maya arises as a result of the energy that is potential in Brahman. So Maya is eternal, just like Brahman is. It comes and it goes in terms of manifestation. The day of Brahma, the night of Brahma, when the gunas come into complete equilibrium, as Vivekananda says, manifestation disappears. When the gunas become in disequilibrium, and one way this is said in the Chandogya Upanishad, the cosmic mind says, I am one, I shall body myself forth as many. Now, this sounds like creating, doesn't it? It sounds like, but it is not. It's simply this idea arises in the cosmic mind, and this is enough to put the gunas into disequilibrium. And through a process that is described in Vedanta, so then Maya occurs, and from Maya arises Jagat, or universe. But as Bhagavan Das was just saying, there really is no form. It seems to us so tangibly true as we sit here, the 9 of us that are appearing on these screens. It seems so tangibly true. But the great sages and teachers, including Sri Ramakrishna, says, no, it's not true. So this is the great mystery. The capital G great, capital M mystery. How can both things be true at once? Our experience and the truth as given to us by the teachers. So I certainly appreciate your question and understand your confusion. Anything else, dear?
I think the snake and the rope story hits at it pretty good. And, there is a reality of Brahman, and the snake is an illusion. It's a phenomenal appearance, a distortion of the reality, if that makes any sense to you.
It makes perfect sense. That is the sense of the story. It is a superimposition on, which is what Adi Shankaracharya says. It isn't that the reality that we experience isn't true, it's just a relative reality, like the imposition of the rope on the snake. And
You know, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say our buddy Bill Davis. I don't know if you subscribe to his. He has a blog and writes stories. I think about once a week I get something, and the latest one, and I didn't even read it yet, but the title was The Rope and Snake Story.
Oh.
But the little blurb following the title was, "We are all imaginary snakes,"
Uh-huh.
which
Oh.
just tickled me.
Well, and it should. It's a very nice turn on that story. Anything else from anyone?
Well, thank you for clarifying, because that was just a little confusion in the chapter of the impersonal life that I got kind of hung up on. So thank you.
Sure. Well, you're most welcome, dear. I'm glad it made some sense. So this is Wednesday. The next opportunity we'll have to get together is Saturday, when we'll talk about the book Divine Grace, which is a beautiful little book by Swami Prabhavananda. And then on Sunday, we'll talk about this business of form, no form, appearance, reality, and the title of that talk is Salvation. What does it mean to be saved from all this? So I hope to see you Saturday and perhaps on Sunday. In the meantime, please do have a lovely Thanksgiving with whoever you're sharing it with. And we'll see one another on Saturday. Any final thought from anyone? All right, dears.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving to you too and everybody.
Thank you. Yes. May you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And may all of our thanks be sincere, the gratitude that was mentioned earlier. Yes, let us feel it. Let us express it. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may the Mother and Father, Divine Being, that introduces the prayer that we start these sessions with, may we be secure in the knowledge that that Divine Being has us in its loving and protective embrace. May you be well and in bright spirits, dear. Happy Thanksgiving.